the broadcasting school, I had to believe that this was attainable, or it would have been for naught. It would have been a waste of 2 years. And so I'd go to that school. I'd be the first one in. I'd be the last one out. I'd be getting feedback from the teachers that were in the industry now. Why wouldn't I take advantage of that and use what they said and put in my next stuff? And so when an opportunity came to audition at the Score at the time, before Sportsnet bought them out, I was ready, man. Yeah, I was in school. I was in my second year, got an email from the general manager at the Score, who's now the vice president at Sportsnet.
Wow.
And said, hey, we want to bring you in for an audition. I was like, oh, interesting. Me and like how many other people? This will still be cool. Whatever. I'll get some experience, move on, maybe my name will be on their radar in a couple of years when I'm ready to go back here. I was still in school, halfway through my second year of a 2-year program. I was 23 years old. I go in for an audition. I'm the only one there. I don't really understand what's going on. And they said, okay, cool. Great job. We'll let you know. So let me know what? Like, is there a job coming up? What's going on? Next week, I'm on TV. And that's it.
Welcome to Growth Untold, the podcast, where we dive into thoughtful conversations and insightful discussions with world-class people, all with the aim of inspiring, educating, and empowering our listeners.
We are thrilled to have you here with us on this exciting journey to explore the diverse stories and the ideas that have the power to shape the world for the better.
Welcome to Growth Untold, the podcast.
Today on Growth Untold, we are thrilled to welcome a vibrant presence and familiar face in Canadian sports media. With his unique blend of versatility, sharp insight, and engaging storytelling, he has become a trusted voice for sports fans across the country. Join us as we dive into his inspiring journey, advocacy for diversity, and how he continues to push the boundaries of representation in media. Welcome, Faizal Khamisa.
Welcome
to the show,
Thank you. That's so nice. Yeah. All these fake things about me that you said is so great. But no, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks you guys.
For coming, man. Thanks for coming. Mm-hmm. So you've obviously worked in sports for a long time with Sportsnet, which for our American listeners, our international listeners, Sportsnet is one of the top sports networks in Canada. So we have Sportsnet and TSN. Those are really two of the big ones. That would be the equivalent, I guess, of ESPN and Fox Sports, or ESPN and NBC Sports. So you've been working there for a while. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your childhood first. Mm-hmm. Are you an immigrant? Are your parents immigrants? Tell us about your childhood.
I mean, so I was born here in Canada, in Toronto. And my parents were not. They both came from East Africa, different parts of East Africa, came here under different circumstances. My mom and her family from Tanzania willingly in the 70s. My dad forcefully after the Asian expulsion in Uganda in 1972. And after bouncing around through different, refugee camps across the world, he settled first in Prince George, which is way out west, and eventually made his way to Toronto and ultimately Mississauga, where my parents live today.
And they met here.
They met here. Here. I'm a Somali Muslim, and the community is very strong. And they met with the Saturday Ismaili studies classes. My dad was a principal, my mom was a teacher, and they met there. And so that's kind of their life story, which is crazy if you think about the origin and where they each came from, and coming to a different country and meeting here. But that's the story of a lot of immigrants that made their way here from East Africa, from our community in the 70s. They came here to build a life and met their partners and ultimately built it for us, which is amazing.
And both of Indian descent.
Yes, both of Indian descent, but long ago. I mean, again, they were mostly raised in East Africa before making their way here, and so the Indian part is long gone. In fact, my parents are going to India in a couple weeks. Like, they probably haven't been there in, I'd say, 50 plus years. And so they're going back just to get a sense of what it's like. So which is really cool. I'm excited for them.
Have you been to India at all?
I've never been to
East
India.
Africa?
No. I've never even been to East Africa, which is crazy. My sisters have both been there, done extended stays there. One of my cousins, had a great job in New York, quit it, left it to start a company that's based out in Kenya as well, which is amazing. So we still have ties out there. The roots run deep, but it's still on the list of the top of the list of places I want to go in my life.
Yeah, for sure. You got to go to Egypt when you hit up Africa.
Okay.
Egypt.
Yeah,
that's where Venus
obviously
from.
Lovely things. So,
yeah. Well,
I'll get the recos from you if you want.
Exactly, for sure.
You.
I mean, while you're in Africa, might as well hit it up.
So you're obviously at Sportsnet. You've been there for a while. Like, what drew you to sports journalism?
I mean, as a kid, that's all I loved was sports. You know, my room was decorated with posters of my favorite athletes, Vince Carter and Matt Sundin, and you know, whoever Blue Jays at the time. And
so Canadian athletes.
oh
specifically.
yeah, I mean, I grew up here, and so I became super engrossed into the Toronto sports scene by nature of being here. And yeah, that's all I cared about. I mean, look, I was a good student. My grades were excellent. I cared about a lot of things academically, but sports is what I was passionate about. A lot of people are passionate about it, sure, but I was as well. And I used to mute the TV and pretend I was calling the games and watch the highlights on repeat so I could pick out the announcers' intricacies and then repeat it instead of them saying it as a kid. And I don't know, when I was like 7 or 8, this would have been the dream job. You grow up a little bit, you go into your teenage years, life happens, you start thinking a little bit more practically. This doesn't seem like the most ideal or suitable career choice, and so I let it go for a while when I actually went to university, but ultimately something drew me back into wanting to do this. And after I got my degree at Western, I decided to give broadcasting a try, and I'm very, very fortunate that it worked out. And
what was
happy I
your
did
degree in?
So I went to Western to study business because I thought that's what the traditional thing should be. I went to high school. I got into a couple different high schools, one for IB, which was academically based, one for a business program, which was business-based, which was cool, and then one for acting, which is like really what I wanted to do as a kid. I was a big musical theater guy, and I got into a school in Mississauga here that revolves around arts, and my parents are like, all right, cool. We didn't think you'd get in. You're not going to do this. So focus on the academics. And you know what? Fair enough, right? You know, they're learning, they're growing. It's, you know, they
don't want you to struggle.
100%, and I fully understand it. And so whatever, I went to Western to study business, and I got accepted into the pre-Ivy program there, you know, the top business school in Canada. And probably took me 2 weeks in my first year to realize, like, this is not what I want to do at all. This is not for me. And, I switched my degree to psychology, so I have a psych degree. And, you know, even before I was looking at media programs, I was looking at doing a master's in sports psychology. I wanted to bring sports back into my life in some way. Ultimately, I decided sports broadcasting was where I thought I would be happiest and went thereafter. So I have a psych degree right now, but it is just there.
Wow, we have similar paths. I did a year at UFT as well before I switched my degree, went into acting. But same thing, you know, I my first year at UFT was because that's what my parents wanted me to do, not really what I wanted to do. And same kind of thing with, you know, within that 1 year, I was just like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. There's no way.
You made it a year. It literally took me 2 weeks. I was like, this is...
Oh, so you switched after 2 weeks?
I didn't switch after 2 weeks. Like I went through first year. I even went through second year. I actually applied to Ivy after my second year, didn't get in. Was working on a psych degree, applied to Ivy again in my third year just to, see if didn't get in a second time. I was like, thank God. I did not want to get in.
Yeah.
And then I could finally tell like, guys, look, I am not good enough for this. I'm accepting this. I'm willing to say this. This is not for me. And we moved on, which was good. So.
But even at 7, 8 years old, you knew specifically that it was like sports broadcasting that you wanted to do.
It wasn't going to be sports playing because, you know, I was a little, you know, Indian African kid that, you know, very skinny. I played every sport growing up. Look, I played hockey, I played baseball, I played soccer, I swam competitively, I figure skated because hockey was such a big part of my life. And I loved playing sports, but I was a little more realistic about my abilities to make it anywhere with that.
Right.
And I figured this was just kind of the next best way to incorporate it into my life. And
at a certain point you're like, I'm not gonna be 6'5".
And that was right away.
And be able to dunk.
Right away.
I was the same way, man. I wish if I was taller, I think I may have pursued basketball. But at a certain point you're like, this isn't gonna work. Like, it's just not. I'm not Muggsy Bogues. I'm not gonna go down that path. So
I could hoop though, man. You were the first guy who I knew that actually had a legitimate left hand.
Thank you. Yes. I was known for my. People thought I was left-handed, but I wasn't.
So when you play pickup, like I got to know to cover both sides.
I actually prefer my left.
Okay.
I prefer driving on my left.
I
prefer my left. I haven't played in a long time though.
We'd probably we'd break something.
Yeah, I'd break my wrist or my ankle or something.
Yeah, something.
I'm really sore today. I played soccer last night. Like at midnight, and I'm like, everything hurts, and that's what happens when you're in your 30s.
Yeah,
you're like, no.
As soon as I turned
6 days to recover.
As soon as I turned 30, I threw out my back. I feel like it was like I was 30.
On the day, right?
Yeah, I feel like I turned 30 and I threw out my back. We've both thrown out our backs, and a lot of my 30-year-old friends throw out their backs. It's weird. You turn 30 and you start throwing out your back.
Switch gets clicked back there. They're like, no, this doesn't work anymore. So good luck.
I have to work out now with a belt. So I forgot my belt this trip, and so I had to lower my squat, weight and my deadlift weight because I was like, I'm gonna throw out my back. I'll just throw it out with my belt.
We
It's
get it. You
crazy.
work out. Okay.
Yeah,
God
it's
damn,
nuts.
man.
And sorry, before that, actually, what did your parents do? What did your parents do when they immigrated to Canada?
My dad worked, at Bombardier, like de Havilland, for a very long time. He's just on the line, making planes with whatever. He just got that job when he got here, and 39 years later, he retired from that same job.
Wow.
Which is insane. My mom, she was in finance for a while, and then she had 3 kids and stopped working to raise us, which is a very traditional immigrant parent mentality, which is completely wonderful. It was great, being home and having her there. And after we got older, she started working again, but like normal office jobs, and eventually settled on one for a very long time. They're both retired though, which is amazing. My dad does real estate right now too, which is his passion and love.
Amazing.
He's really, really active there, which is
good
amazing.
for him after 39 years.
No, I know.
Yeah.
It's actually crazy. We both went to write our real estate test together because I was still trying to figure out, once I realized the business thing was not for me, like where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. I didn't pass, he passed. And it led him to this second career, which is now his main career. And he's thriving. Like, he's so good with people. Obviously, he just wants to help people, which is amazing as well. I'm not trying to plug him, but like, it's.
But if you're
it's
looking to
admirable.
buy a house or sell a house, really, I mean, guys.
My guy's in his 70s and he's doing his thing,
Damn.
and he's still so passionate about it, which I love. So he started a brand new career, learned it from scratch, learned the intricacies of it. It's amazing to see.
That's the immigrant mentality.
I was
man.
just gonna say
after
that-
39 years, you're
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna do something
Yeah.
else, and he did it.
He
That's
doesn't know how to
amazing.
slow down, so
Yeah.
this is a good way for him to stay active, which is great.
And what about your siblings? What do they do?
Yeah, so my older sister's a teacher, which is great, and my younger sister, she's lived an entire 10 persons worth of lives, man. She's lived all over the world doing a bunch of different things. She just moved back to Vancouver, where she's working with Soccer Foundation out there.
Oh.
She was out in England for a while working with the FA, which is the biggest soccer organization in the world.
So also sports.
I know, and funny enough, my older sister, she teaches, but she's a phys ed teacher right now, which is crazy. The two of them didn't like sports at all growing up, and now it's all
Really?
kind of incorporated in all our lives. My younger sister has more access than me to places, which is crazy. So she's the plug for me right now, and
Right.
it's amazing to see. No, they're both doing their things. They're both passionate about what they do, and no, I love it, man. Our parents let us, figure it out. It took a couple wonky steps along the way, but to their credit, they trusted us to figure it out, and all 3 of us, knock on something, have, which is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
So yeah, it's great to see.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's amazing to see that. And what are like some of those learnings you got from your parents, or other learnings you got? Like you said, your dad did like a bit of like a course correct in his career. Your mom, I'm assuming they're just incredible hard workers.
That's it. Like if you want to do something, you better work hard to go do it. When I told them that I wanted to go into broadcasting post-Western,
Yeah.
they're like, look, it didn't take a lot of convincing, but it took some. And they said, if you're going to do this, like, this is it, right? This costs a lot of money. It's a brand new pivot. You have no experience in this. You better work your butt off to make sure you're doing this right. And those are qualities I saw from them my entire childhood and upbringing, right? They just worked hard and hard and hard. My dad, once I got sick, which I'm sure we'll talk about, switched his shift from day to night so he can take me to the hospital during the day and then work at night and then barely sleep and do it again the next day. And it's all because that's what you had to do to kind of survive and thrive in life. And, their entire mentality was to make sure that the 3 of us were taken care of. And, again, we're also grateful that they worked so hard to do it. And I think those lessons have been passed on to all of us along the way.
So what did that look like? I mean, you got diagnosed when you were 16. That must have been so difficult, not just for you, but
Yeah.
your family, your sisters. What did that look like when you're 16 and you find that news out?
Yeah, no, it was surreal. I mean, I was diagnosed with cancer at 16 years old, and what I thought was like the peak of my teenage years, and 16 is such a rite of passage age for so many people.
Yeah.
You really consider yourself an adult. You're driving, you're working, you're figuring out what universities may look like. And I'd played in a soccer tournament the week before. I didn't feel well. I had acted, in the school play the week before, and I remember during rehearsals, I was lying on the floor because I couldn't, everything just hurt, and I was still trying to figure out what it was. And again, I told you, I was an active kid. I played so many sports. I was working. I was, doing the play, and I was obviously doing school. I was volunteering. So when my body started hurting in January of that year, 2005, I just attribute it to me doing 100 different things and never slowing down. And I like living like that. I like being the guy that always had something to do. So, I was like, everything's hurting. I need to slow down. Didn't really relieve any of the pain that I was feeling and the pressures I was feeling in my chest, my shoulders. And, I I remember going to the doctor 2 weeks before I was diagnosed, and they're like, "Oh, we'll take an X-ray of your chest. We'll see what's up." They thought it was just an enlarged heart, which is treatable. You get medicine, you deal with that, you move on. Okay. And thankfully, I never started that medicine because 2 weeks later, I just kind of passed out at my house, went to emergency. They did a little bit more intricate tests, and they found that it was not an enlarged heart. It was a tumor that was growing 2 times the size of my heart that was kind of in my body and that had been developing for quite some time. And
do they know how long it had been developing? What was their estimate?
It's hard to say, but like for sure when I started feeling those like symptoms in January, you could tell that it was already prevalent then. So I'd say if I had to estimate, probably like 8 months, like
Right,
8
at
to
least.
10 months at least, because of how big it was and how large it had grown and how much it had kind of taken over my body. And like, I'm at Sick Kids then, right? As a 16-year-old, a hospital meant for children, and they just do the best work at making sure everyone's taken care of there. But I was very fortunate. They take care of kids up until the age of 18. So I'm 16. I still fit into that category, but I'm sitting in the room waiting for the doctor. It's a room full of like children's books and like trains, and the wallpaper's all like kid oriented. And I'm just looking around kind of delusional, trying to figure out, waiting for the doctor to come in and tell me what's going on. And I would never have expected the words cancer to come out of the doctor's mouth. I never even thought that that was a real possibility because I didn't know much about it. At least anything I heard about it was associated with older people and not younger people like myself at that time. And no, it was it was like a tough reveal, right? For my parents, especially that, I remember them crying. It was really hard for me to see that. I didn't cry. I was just kind of more stunned than anything else. And I think seeing them really lit this fire under me right away to, make me not want to break down as much as I probably should have and could have given the circumstances. And I don't know, it was interesting, right? Because at first you're like, okay. And then you're scared for a minute. And then you're like, again, and this goes back to my parents and their mindset was like, okay, no matter what happens in life, you just got to kind of work hard. My dad, again, a refugee, kicked out of a country, found his way here, built a life and thriving. You just got to work your butt off to overcome whatever it is you're going through in life. And so I heard this thing, and probably for like 5 minutes, we were all sad. And I was like, okay, how do we figure this out? What can we do? How can we overcome this? Like, no more crying. Like, let's figure out the plan of attack. And the plan of attack was right away. We're starting chemo like that day. So I got diagnosed and I was in the hospital for like 2.5 weeks right away that day. I thought I was just going there to figure out what was going on, go home. I had a hockey. I'm probably at a hockey game at some point that week or like swim practice or school. It was May, right? So school was still coming to an end. It was grade 11. It's a pretty big year in like IB. Try to figure out what the next step is, right? But didn't go to school for the rest of the year and started treatment right away. And it was my new normal, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So everything stops. You start treatment. Do they do surgery to remove the tumor at any point?
Couldn't do surgery because it was too close to the heart. So it was too dangerous to operate near the vessel. So the idea was to just blast me with chemotherapy and steroids to try to bring it down as quickly as possible. It was caught at a pretty late stage, which made it really tough. I don't know what the exact odds were for being here or not being here. I never really asked. But I've been hinted at, towards that from other people that were around there at the time.
Probably a very low percentage.
It was tough given the size of this thing, but that didn't really matter to me in the moment. I couldn't control any of that. I can control how I felt. I can control how I helped people around me feel, and I think that was an important growing up point for me in my life. Obviously, like the sense of perspective you get at 16 when this happens is unique and different to what most 16-year-olds are thinking about. And even what I would have been thinking about the day before, it was very different based on what the doctor told me that day. So I don't know, something clicked in my mind to say, okay, we're not going to be sad about this. We're just going to find a way to be positive. And we're going to accept whatever comes our way and try to smile through the process, as difficult as it may be.
Yeah, I work with a foundation in the States, Zoe Braveheart's foundation, and they deal specifically with kids who have cancer.
It's tough.
And they say the most important thing for the people around them is to be positive. The parents around them, their families around them, to be positive. Because that's what you have to be when you're put in a situation like that.
So I'm 16 and I'm at a hospital, again, that's centered around children, right? And these kids have no idea what's going to them, but they're laughing, they're smiling, they're playing with the clowns, they're playing with the toys, and their parents are feeling it, obviously, because they know the reality of what's going on more than some of these kids do. And at 16, I'm a little more conscious and aware, so I know what's going on. But seeing these kids smile, man, like it makes you sad and happy at the same time, because they're just living lives that kids should be living right now. And under the toughest circumstances. So, I mean, if they're smiling, they're laughing. I have no excuse to not do the same.
So that really helped you
for
kind
sure.
of get through.
For sure, it did.
Can we talk a little bit about the perspective shift?
Yeah.
You're going into this just like an everyday childhood, and then you go into this. What's going on in your mind after this moving forward? Do you have a newfound perspective or love of life?
For sure I do, man. For sure I do. You know, there's a direct link between me being diagnosed with cancer to me doing what I do today. And it's all because, you know, I had this desire to want to be positive and, you know, spread the message of, you know, life happens, how are you going to get through it? You know, obstacles happen, how are you going to overcome it? And it's one thing for me to say that. It's another thing for me to look at myself and be like, dude, you have to live this as well, right? Like, you want to live this happy and fulfilling life because you don't know how quickly things can change, or you do know how quickly things can change, then go live this happy life. And that's what led me to doing this broadcasting thing. You know, I started speaking about my cancer experience in university to younger kids. I remember in first year, again, academically not doing well, but I went into first year university a year into my 2-year chemotherapy plan. I just had double hip surgery, and I got off crutches 2 days before I left to go to Western. My parents were like, look, maybe we can defer this accept. And I was like, no, we got to go, man. Like, life is about pushing through and let's go.
And was the hip had anything to do with the cancer?
Yeah, so the steroids that I got as part of my treatment as well stopped the blood from flowing to both my hips, and I had to have both my hips operated on, not replaced, but more like I don't even know the technical term anymore. It's more of a diffusion. They scraped off a layer of the tissue and the bone in the hopes that it would reform and the blood would start flowing through properly. So I was on bed rest for the last 8 weeks before I went to university. A year into treatment, you know, everything was going well. The tumor had subsided. I was going to Western. I was like, okay, I got my summer back. I can do whatever I want. This leg thing happens. I was like, crap, here we go again. 8 weeks in bed rest. But you know what, man? We turned my house into like, you know, a party house. My friends would come over. I was living in the living room on the main floor because I couldn't go up or downstairs. And so we were just hanging out there. My friends would be there, you know, it'd be nonstop, like in and out of people, which was great. But, you know, then I had to go to school. And I got into Western, like I said, through the chemo, you know, through missing a bunch of grade 12 because of treatment. I managed to do my work in the hospital, do my work at home, had the best academic year of my life somehow, and got into the pre-Ivy program at Western. I was like really proud. And I was like, no, guys, like, look at what I was able to do here. Like, the treatment subsided, like, we're good. I finished my chemo in London for a year, and we're just going to go. And my academic success was not great. I was obviously bogged down by my body being bad and some of the distractions that just come with being a first year at a new place after being restricted for the last 2 years, basically, with this treatment. But my residence advisor at the time was like, hey, there's a bunch of grade 12 students coming in for a tour. Do you want to speak to them? I'm like, yeah, I can speak to them on how not to succeed academically in first year if you want. She's like, no, I kind of want you to just talk about like what you've gone through and give them like a perspective. And I never thought about that. You know, I'd lived it because, yeah, it was important for me to have that mindset, but I'd never thought about sharing the story. And so I spoke to these kids, you know, people were crying. I was crying. My residence advisor was crying. And I thought about making this like a viable part of my life kind of going forward. So I started this motivational speaking company. At the time it was called In Your Hands Inspirational Speaking. And the message was about how life is very much in your hands. And I use examples of my parents. I'd use my example. And, you know, the more I spoke, the more comfortable I felt doing it, the more confident I got doing it. And the more I thought about how I can incorporate speaking into my life and presenting into my life. And yes, I wanted to be an actor growing up, but okay, even at 16, that felt unrealistic. But I was like, broadcasting didn't. And so as I was trying to navigate through university, I started a sports blog where I put out videos every day and put out articles and podcasts, much like this back in the day. This was in 2009 or 10.
Oh, you're an OG.
Before these Rode mics were around and the cameras like this were around, I was using the webcam on my crappy laptop and the mic on my laptop. We were just spitting out content, and I enjoyed it. I thought I was pretty good at it. The website that I started had a success level that I didn't think was there. I had writers writing for me because we were just trying to make it this fun, really cool thing.
Right.
And that pushed me into broadcasting. And I think had I not been diagnosed with cancer, I never would have had the confidence to speak to kids and, you know, trust myself speaking and then push myself to doing this as a career path. And so, yeah, man, my perspective changed based on that diagnosis for sure. But it changed more when I started sharing my story to people, and I started, you know, sharing a message that I needed to believe in as well. And once I believed in it, I could figure out the path to my life, which has led me here.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It reminds me, and sorry, Mina, but it reminds me of something that I really recently listened to. Brene Brown said, "We're always chasing extraordinary moments. constantly, right? And then when something really bad happens, in this instance, when you're diagnosed with cancer, you're aching for just an ordinary moment, right? To play with your friends, to just have a normal life, to just go to university without, the issues
pain and issues. Yeah,
exactly. So it's crazy. It's always about perspective at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, nothing has been normal since 16 for me, right? I wake up every day, everything hurts still, and my body is what it is. But you know what, man? Like, you got to push through. I still play soccer. I still find a way to live my life. I have a really, a job that I'm proud of, which, look, man, like at 16, it could go two ways, right? You could accept it and move on and find a way to overcome it, or you can make excuses and let that be the thing that defines the rest of your life. 16 is too young to have that be the rest of my life story, right? And I needed to do something else with my life that other people will look at and be like, oh, he's not just a guy that had cancer, or not just a guy that had his hip replaced and this, that, or whatever. Like, I wanted to do something that would make people talk about me in a different way. And I think now the beauty of my life is people know me through TV, which is amazing, because for a lot of it growing up, it was just the guy that had cancer.
Well, not just that, but you're also, one of the few visibly ethnic people on TV, and one of the few, diverse sports anchors. So you've done an incredible thing.
Thank you. Yeah.
When did you find out that? I know with cancer, it's like it's never like you've beat it and it'll never come back. There's always that worry. But when did you find out, like, hey, it's looking really good, like you beat this thing?
So, I mean, through that second year of treatment while I was at Western, I got, I was going through scans and tests, and about halfway through the second year of treatment, it was a 2-year term of treatment. Halfway through, they said the tumor's completely gone, which was amazing. It didn't mean like you were out of the woods or whatever. You still needed to do the last 6 months of chemo to make sure everything was safe and sound. But, that was obviously a relieving message to receive. And when they did the test at the end of the 2 years, there was no indication that there's any cancer cells left in my body, which was obviously, again, amazing. Did it come with its consequences? Yes. Like I said, the hips before I left for Western, I had my shoulder operated on, my chest. I then had my right hip fully replaced, like I mentioned as well. But all of that was just a journey towards this path, like to this destination. Like, again, the other side of it would have been, okay, you're not here, period. This side is you go through all these surgeries, your body aches and pains, and you can't work out the way you used to, you can't play sports the way you used to. Fine, but you're gonna be here and you're gonna get to live your life as normal as you can, considering what happened. The rest is up to you. And I'll take this option for sure, because it allowed me to do something which is cool. So it was a cool message. Again, you're never really out of the woods. They always say there's a chance, this, that, or whatever. 5 years in, you go through full remission, which is amazing. So well past that date now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is still always in the back of my mind as a guy that did have it. Every time I get sick or feel a certain thing, I was like, there's no way, right? And like, there is no way. Anything that happens now would be purely coincidental, not related to what happened.
Yeah.
So no, it actually took a long time for that thought to not dominate my mind given what happened, but
it's a little bit of PTSD for sure.
For
like
sure,
of course, yeah.
For sure.
Well, congratulations,
Thank you.
man.
Thank
You're an inspiration,
seriously.
and anyone that beats cancer is a survivor. And at 16 too, to do that, and like you said, a lot of cancer survivors, from what I know, they end up kind of carrying their families through it because it's almost harder on their families than it is on them.
Yeah.
So fantastic,
Thank
man.
you. No, thank you,
What
guys.
an amazing
Thank you.
story.
Thank you.
And it's not only that, it's one thing to go through it, to overcome it, but then also you have this element of giving back and this toy drive that you do all the time with sick kids. Walk us through that. That's amazing, and it's an amazing initiative that you're doing that.
No, thank you very much. I mean, look, it goes back to what I said about being at Sick Kids and seeing those kids just smiling at the idea of playing with these toys and having these, fun characters come around and draw for them or play with them. That experience, man, like the time I spent at Sick Kids, I'll remember vividly for the rest of my life, man. Just the smiles on faces of kids and the juxtaposition with their families. And so, after I'd been at Sportsnet for some time, I thought, it's not enough to be here and not do anything about it. I wanted to use that platform, the exposure I had, to try to do some good. And I decided I would shave my head on TV in honor of, commemorating a milestone of how many years it had been post-cancer. And I thought I would try to raise some money and some toys to donate to Sick Kids, and it took off like crazy. I had people from all over the country sending me toys and money to buy toys, and I had professional sports teams sending me their toys and stuff, like bobbleheads and plushies and stuff to take to the hospital. And it went from, hey, I hope I can feel like a car, to go take the tickets, to renting a truck and filling up a truck full of toys and games and whatever it is, and donating money to the hospital as well to go do this. And I shaved my head on TV, and that was that. I mean, it was a no-brainer for me to do it. It'd been tough to continue it post-COVID given the circumstances, but we still make sure, there's some outreach with the hospital that's kind of done privately. Been working on a plan to try to do something similar in a bigger scale, but it always kind of fallen by the wayside. It's still in the back of my head, and hopefully at some point, we can bring that back. But no, it's look, man, I had that platform. I wasn't, as popular on TV then as I was now. I think the more you spend time on it, the more people know you. Fine. I was only a few years into my career then, but it was enough for me to want to use that platform to try to do something for this place that had genuinely saved my life and saves the lives of so many other people. And it's a tough time in there for everybody, including the kids. While they're smiling, yes, they still have to go through hell with the treatments that they go through and the procedures that they go through. And if I can provide something that helps a kid or multiple kids smile a tiny bit, it was a no-brainer. So it was something I'm super proud of, and I was more proud that so many people were willing to get involved with that as well and contribute to what was just an unbelievable experience. Yeah.
And my sister works at Sick Kids, by the way. She's a pharmacist there. So over a decade at Sportsnet, in an age where people are switching jobs, every couple of years and trying to find new jobs, trying to always kind of find another role somewhere else. How do you manage, finding the joy and finding the passion, not only at What Network, but, doing what you love? So over 10 years, what are the pros and cons of sticking it out with one employer?
Yeah, I mean, we can start with the cons, right? I mean, the cons for me, like in the self-fulfilling way, is that sometimes you feel like, okay, is there more I can do here, or do I feel tapped out? Do I feel like I don't belong here? Working at a place like that's on a national level where people know your life, the ins and outs, they can, see you on TV and yell crappy things to you online. Like,
you're a public figure.
Yeah, you're a public figure. I mean, like people aren't always happy with things public figures do, and whether it's based on how I look or what I say or whatever. It was hard sometimes to ingest some of that, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, which is great.
Yeah, you get better at kind of blocking it out
100%,
and focusing on what you do,
100%.
And realizing that it's it's an echo chamber online. Sometimes you got to remove yourself from that.
For sure. I think I look at a lot of my business friends now, the people I went to Western with that went through the Ivy program, and they've switched from one big bank to another big bank, or one 4-letter to another 2, whatever the case may be. That's just kind of how that pipeline goes. And I was like, I've never switched jobs once in my adult life. Like, I've had this job and this job only. Yes, my roles have changed within it, but I've never had the experience of starting a job. I've never had to post on LinkedIn like, this is my new job, and have people congratulate me for that. I've never had that kind of feeling, but I don't know. So I think about, am I not doing enough by not seeing what else is out there? But in this country, I'm at the place I want to be, right? There's 2 networks, as you mentioned. I'm at one of them. I'm very proud to be at one of them. I get to do a lot, and sometimes you want to do more, but it's hard at a bigger network sometimes to always do what you want to do. That doesn't mean you're not happy doing that, period. It's just sometimes, you're seeing the cool experiences other people get to go through at your job, and you're like, no, I kind of want to do that too. But, time and place, everything will come in time. And, the pros are I get to talk about sports every day, man. Yeah. And it's really freaking cool to get to go cover that for a living. Some of the experiences I've got to have are as unique as any from anybody's lives. And I mean, I'm always appreciative of the fact that this is my career path, and get to put on a nice suit and get some makeup on and, go talk about it. It's really like, I know people say the dumb cliche, if it's something you enjoy, it doesn't really feel like work. But when the lights are on, the cameras are on, it doesn't feel like work. I just get to go be an idiot on TV, as I say, and have some fun with it. And if you like it, you like it. If not, I'm sorry, I'm going to be the same guy tomorrow. But that's on you to watch. But, I really hope you do. But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying. I can enjoy getting to do this every day, which is great.
That's amazing. Yeah. Do you have any memorable interviews you've done in the past, or any memorable experiences?
Oh
being
man,
on air?
like tons, man. I mean, things that stand out just off the top is, I remember I used to do the media days for the Raptors, and it's sometimes it's really tough to get an athlete to open up to you, but because I had no shame in making myself like the butt of the joke or whatever. They would respond to me quite well. And so, we'd be singing Drake songs with Raptors or drawing with them. And we had some like really viral moments through those, which were really cool. I got to go to Vegas when the Golden Knights were first a hockey team. And It was revolving around the NHL awards at the time, and so I got to do a lot of behind the scenes stuff with athletes in Vegas. And so I went to a Magic show with Brent Burns and David Copperfield, and at 2:30 in the morning, after he had won the award for best defenseman with a bottle of champagne bigger than me, I was interviewing like the most famous magician in the world and like a defenseman at the same time, and everyone's buttons were down because everyone was wasted. Like it was like such a surreal experience. And the next day, I'm flying on a helicopter with Connor McDavid from Vegas to the Grand Canyon, landing on the Grand Canyon and interviewing him there. And I'm like, this is my life right now? That's crazy. And I look back at the pictures and the videos. I was like, one, what the hell was I wearing? Two, how can this be like the life that I'm, being afforded right now? It felt, some of these experiences feel so freaking surreal. And no, like it's so, like, thinking back, it just makes me happy to think back at some of these experiences I've had. And I know I just said, look, you always want to do more, but at the same time, you have to be grateful for the opportunities you have gotten to do. And I know I am, given that I've gotten to do some really, really unique things in life, man. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, definitely, between being grateful for what you have and also, aspiring to do more. And then it's also, you've got to be careful with that thing that, I always do and try to get better at, which is comparing yourself to other people who are maybe doing a little bit more than you. And you're going, well, how do I get there? How do I get up there? Like, that's what I want to do. And then you got to remind yourself, like, all right, but also there's a lot of people that would kill for this, to be where I am. And it's a balancing act, because I feel like if you're not driven and wanting to be where other people are, then you'll never get there. But at the same time, you've got to be grateful for where you've come from. I
don't think the jealousy is going to take you very far, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not.
It almost changes the way you want to approach life, and it's not the right way. I think if you just keep working hard and proving your worth, like things can work out, and it's not like they haven't for either of us in different facets. But I know it's important to thrive for more. Of course it is. Like you want ambition, you want motivation, of course. But at the same time, you have to be grateful for what you do have and what are able to do. And if you continue to work hard and show that you're good at what you do, you never know what doors are going to open.
Yeah, and I don't think it's so much jealousy, but it's that idea of, like, having a dream board, and putting on your dream board things you don't have and places that you've never been, and aspiring to do more and be more. Yeah. But like we said, it's definitely a balancing act. How was the Raptors championship season? I mean, I was there when they beat the Milwaukee Bucks.
We were
both there, and
that was an interesting night.
Dude, it was like we won the championship.
No kidding, eh?
Like how we met Shaq, right?
Okay, I thought you forgot that. We went.
No.
Well, Mina's got great connects, and that's all what I would say, right? Yeah, I know this guy.
I can show you the world here. Yeah.
I love it. You dropped it in
shining,
there.
shimmering, splendid, baby. And then Shaq came in with his son.
Man, that guy is big. Shaq is huge.
And you got to meet with him.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. Got to hang out
funny.
for a bit, took a photo with him. He's such a nice guy. Like when you're. So when I go out sometimes and I'm feeling anxious and I'm feeling like I want to be left alone, I can wear a baseball cap and sunglasses. But when you're Shaq, man, there's nothing.
You can't hide, bro.
There's nothing you can do
because
there are only a handful of people that are that tall and that big with a bald head. Like, there's just, you know what I mean? You just can't hide. But he embraces it. He embraces it with everyone, and he's such a nice guy. But that night, just beating the Milwaukee Bucks in the semifinals, Eastern Conference Finals, that was like we won the championship. Then I went back to LA. But how was it from your perspective after we won the whole thing?
No, it was insane. First of all, post Milwaukee Bucks night, the day after, I was at Lavelle for a day party. Yeah. My friends were in town, and they're like, we want to go here. I hate going out. I don't like going out. It's just not really my style. I don't drink, so it's like really weird. But I had to accommodate because they were in town. Fine. Yeah. I go there, and a Raptor is decided to have his birthday there during the day as well. And I look at the Raptor. He looks at me because there's hundreds of people, like, they are just coming off making the finals, and he's there the next day. And I was like, what did you expect? He's like, and they had to rope him off as well so that he can enjoy a little bit. And I left, and I went to him. I was like, you want? And he's like, and he was fine. But, the championship itself was just crazy. I mean, I was at the first couple games doing stuff with Sportsnet, which is amazing. And the energy in the building was like unlike anything I've ever experienced in my entire life. And then they win the thing. they win the thing, and then there's a parade, and I'm in the parade on my birthday.
Oh, that's
June
amazing.
17, 29. I'm in the parade on my birthday. Again, what did I wear? I have no clue why I wore what I wore, but I didn't get full autonomy to make decisions like that like I do now. But it was so cool to be part of that spectacle. The parade was forever long. But yeah, I mean, being part of it, interviewing players along the way, Masai and Bobby and some of the people on the team during that. Frig, man, I can't believe I didn't bring that up when you asked about the experiences, because that's up there.
No.
More. I've never taken more steps in a day in my life. I've never felt more pain in my life, but I've never felt more joy in my life either. Because look, I know we're supposed to put away our biases, but I grew up a Toronto kid. I had Vince Carter on my wall. I was a Raptors fan growing up. They won the freaking championship. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
A feeling like no other, and all future teams will be compared to that, which is why I think there's a bit of a divisiveness between the fan base right now, but
and the only major Toronto sports team to win a championship in my lifetime.
Yeah, I was 4 when the Blue Jays won, so I don't remember much of that. But the Leafs, please, anytime now you would like to do it. I'm waiting for that one, please. I'd like to still be at Sportsnet while you do this thing. But yeah, man, for them to do it, holy crap, man, it's crazy just to think about the fact that they did it. A Toronto team won a championship, and then I got to be part of that, man.
Yeah, and I think they'll do it again, but I'm forever grateful that it happened.
We got
in
one.
my lifetime.
At least we got one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm happy if we never get another one, but I do think we will. But I'm happy that we got to experience
That's awesome.
the
You guys
Milwaukee
seem like you had
Bucks.
some great stuff too.
That was amazing.
Though. Thanks to Mina.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Come on.
And what do you think of Vince Carter retiring his jersey?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
No, I love it, man. Look, I get the hostility.
You obviously love it because you're saying
that was
you
my
had
guy.
his,
Like, was I sad and mad when he left as a kid? Of course I was. I was a child and I was a sports fan. That's my favorite player. Why is he leaving? Why does he hate us? Why does he not want to? Why is he telling them the plays on the way out? Like, what's going on here, right? But like, I'm an adult now. We can forgive and forget, and it's impossible to ignore what he meant to the scope of sports in this city, this country, and that sport in particular, right? It was, not the most popular sport. To say he put it on the map was maybe a bit of an overstatement, but yeah, he certainly helped, define basketball in Canada and serve as a role model for so many of the Canadians that are in the NBA now. And
he was wearing a Toronto Raptors jersey during some of the most iconic dunks of all time.
Right? Like, of course, and you can't forget that, right? That legacy has to be honored, I think, and I think this is the right way to do it. I'm happy he went to the Hall of Fame as a Raptor. He's gonna have a ceremony here November 2nd, which is gonna be really, really cool. He's doing some games for Sportsnet, which I won't get to see him because he's at the arena, but he's my colleague technically. I can say that as well for a little bit, and all that is cool, man. So no, I'm happy he's being celebrated the right way. I think a lot of people have come around on it. I know some people won't, and fair enough. That's okay. Live with hate in your heart. It's okay.
I didn't get
you don't have to.
I didn't get the whole being against retiring his jersey. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was maybe the younger generation that didn't grow up with him.
Sports hate runs deep, dude. Like, some people don't forget. People have grueling animosity towards their athletes because of things they didn't do or are leaving or whatever, and that's part of sports fandom, I guess. You're entitled to feel a certain type of way. I think more people are okay with it than not now, which probably wouldn't have been the case 10 years ago or whatever, but
yeah, I love it.
Here.
I mean, I love it. I think it's completely the right move, and I do, like I said earlier, some of the most iconic dunks of all time are Vince Carter wearing a Toronto Raptors jersey. I don't really remember him having any iconic dunks wearing a Nets jersey.
There was some.
There
some?
There
were a couple, you can tell them.
Well, the more iconic ones are in the Raptors jersey.
They look better in purple, though. I'll say that. They look better in purple.
Man, exactly.
Damn,
and like, a lot of people are debating whether we should retire Kawhi's jersey. Listen, I love the guy. I'm a Kawhi fan. But Vince Carter put in the time. Kawhi, it almost felt like he was a heart surgeon. Like, he came in one year, got it done, and then was like, I'm retiring, no more heart surgery.
That was his most talented year ever, I think, in the NBA.
I mean, look at since, right? Like, I feel bad that
injury,
the way that he is now, we don't get to see him do his thing, because every time he comes back, he's so good again. But
and I'm biased.
Short sustaining.
Yeah, and we're all biased, but I do feel like he did not make a great career move by leaving. Like, I feel like if he would have stayed, I don't know if we would have won the championship, but I think we would have gotten really far, especially seeing how good
without him the year after was really good.
That's
I know
what I was going to say.
Came and then
how good Siakam was
COVID
after
playoffs happened, and
Lowry almost felt like he was better the next year.
Yeah,
like
OG was healthy. Like, Fred was really good again. Like,
That's the thing about Toronto that I always feel like we don't get attention in the States, and I know that now living in the States, we don't get attention in the States because we're a Canadian team. But when these guys leave and go to American teams, everybody's like, these guys are amazing. Like, people are like, OG Anunoby is like God's gift to the earth. And I'm like, yeah, like, we cultivated that talent. Like, we literally have had this guy since he was a kid. And we cultivated that talent, and like as soon as they leave, they get all this attention, which I guess I understand. It's the Knicks and New York,
the Knicks, man.
Yeah, it's Madison Square Garden, baby. It's like it's amazing. So I get that, but I do love how the Raptors develop players.
Yeah.
I think they're the best team in the NBA, one of the best teams in the NBA. You could put them up there with the Spurs, what Oklahoma, the Thunder have done, but we're one of the best teams at developing talent, man.
Yeah, I agree. Any hot takes for the Raptors this season? Like, how do you feel about
they're going to be fun.
Yeah.
They're not. I don't know if they'll win a lot of games.
Yeah.
Masai has come out and said they're not going to win. I mean, everybody's come out and been like, they're not winning games.
I'm quoting the president. They're going to be fun, though. They've had some fun games already. Had they been fully healthy, maybe they win a couple more of those early ones. But, they're going to be a fun team. I think there's a nucleus there for the future, which is really good. Grady looks good.
Grady looks great.
And RJ is a different player in Toronto. And I think if those three and Quickly as well continue to ascend, like that's a good foundation.
Quickly's who I have my eye on. I'm very impressed with Grady Dick so far. I think he's already kind of proven he's going to be an incredible player. Those threes look so good. He's got one of the best shots in the NBA, man. Just from a technical perspective,
For sure.
It just looks it looks silky.
You want to take my job?
No,
He's killing it.
No,
He's killing it.
No, I can't even come up with different verbs here or adverbs. I don't even know what the difference is. But it looks nice coming out. And RJ Barrett, you're right. He looks, he's I think having the best half year last year that he's had in his career. And of course, Scotty Barnes. I called it. Actually, I won a lot of money. I'm not gonna lie. I won a lot of money betting on him winning Rookie of the Year. People thought I was crazy. Yeah, I mean Vegas, the betting odds thought I was crazy. I bet on him winning Rookie of the Year. He won it, and I think he's gonna be an incredible player. Quickly's the guy who I'm like, all right, a lot of potential there, but for the amount of money we spent, which I know the contract will get better over time because looking back at it, you're going to be
will
like,
go up, the revenue will go up,
Yeah, players like him will get like 40 million, 45 in a couple of years, and his 35 or 34 will look great. But I want to see if he's a leading point guard in the NBA and how good he is. He looked good in Summer League, man.
They did. I mean, they're betting on him to be that guy, and I think a lot of it hinges on that. You're right.
Have you seen the photos of him looking like diced, like looking shredded?
That's a big boy. That's a jack boy.
He looks like he gained a ton of muscle in the offseason. Bro, his traps, I was like, he looked big. I was like, okay, yeah, if you can keep gaining muscle like this, I'm on board.
Once we open up the Raptors conversation, Mina just goes off.
Yeah, we might not talk about another thing today.
I don't even think so.
I transformed into a different person. Bro, I love it. I've been speaking about the Raptors for 7 minutes. I love them, man. Oh, I have 7 minutes. Okay, that's lots of time. Don't interrupt me. Go ahead.
I want to switch gears in terms of this podcast about celebrating diversity, diversity in media, and in front of the camera, behind the camera. Walk us through where you hope where we're going, or where would you hope we
and how
go?
much you've seen Sportsnet change, because I mean even I've as a viewer have seen it change.
Yeah, no, I mean the media landscape in Canada has changed everywhere over the last 10, 15 years. You've had to. I mean, look, man, the population isn't just one way here, right? There's a lot of diversity in this country, and I think the voices on television should reflect that diversity. When I'm 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and wanting to do this and not seeing anybody look like me there, that's when it becomes something that feels unrealistic and not practical to do. So when a kid can see me and, Donovan Bennett or many of the other, wonderful, diverse, talented people we have across any television network in this country, you start to believe in a way that's a lot more realistic, not a little more realistic, like a lot more realistic, because it's everywhere. It's not just a one-off anymore. It's not just one here, one. No, it's like prevalent everywhere in this country. And then some of those people are taking their talents and moving to the States and turning into bigger careers as well. And that's an unbelievable thing.
Yeah, didn't Sid move to the States?
No, Sid's here doing breakfast television.
Who am I thinking of? Someone moved to the States.
Nabil Kareem, who was a big mentor of mine, worked at TSN, then worked at ESPN, and now is at TNT, and he's killing it. And it's like a moment of pride for me and for people of color to see a guy that fully started as a Canadian, then went to, BCIT in Vancouver, had a sociology degree or whatever. Sorry if I got that wrong, but like wanted to do this, did it, and now he's killing it at the biggest networks in the world.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so cool. Of course it's possible to do that now. Of course the dream should be realistic or more practical than it's ever been. You want it, just go work hard at it. That's it. That's the only thing I'll say. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. Go work hard at something. Prove that you're better than the other people that are there, and the opportunities will come.
And believe it.
Believe it. You have to believe it now because, again, 10-year-old me wouldn't have believed it. But when I started, the broadcasting school, I had to believe that this was attainable, or it would have been for naught. It would have been a waste of 2 years. And so I'd go to that school. I'd be the first one in. I'd be the last one out. I'd be getting feedback from the teachers that were in the industry now. Why wouldn't I take advantage of that and use what they said and put in my next stuff? And so when an opportunity came to audition at the Score at the time, before Sportsnet bought them out, I was ready, man. Yeah, I was in school. I was in my second year, got an email from the general manager at the Score, who's now the vice president at Sportsnet.
Wow.
And said, hey, we want to bring you in for an audition. I was like, oh, interesting. Me and like how many other people? This will still be cool. Whatever. I'll get some experience, move on, get, maybe my name will be on their radar in a couple of years when I'm ready to go back here. I was still in school, halfway through my second year of a 2-year program. I was 23 years old. I go in for an audition. I'm the only one there. I don't really understand what's going on. And they said, okay, cool. Great job. We'll let you know. So let me know what? Like, is there a job coming up? What's going on? Next week, I'm on TV. And that's it.
Wow.
That's it. And I was like, holy crap. I need to get my eyebrows threaded. I need to get my hair done. I need to get wardrobe. Like, what's going on? This was my life then. And
you finished school. You finished it?
I finished school, of course. I had already, killed it.
Of course,
at
I'm brown.
school.
What do you think?
I have the degree or the diploma or whatever. It's on the wall somewhere. Who cares? I'm on TV. That's my diploma now. That's my credentials,
Yeah.
But, look, I was ready for that because, one, I treated that school as a job. That College of Sports Media was a job to me. I'd go in, I'd treat that like work. They told me, treat it like work. So I did. Not everyone did there. Not everybody's working in this industry, despite how much money that program was and how much was available to you at that time, resource-wise. You could use the cameras, you could use the editing suites, you could use the podcast booth, and I did. Every day I would use something because why wouldn't I? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm starting this career cold. I better take advantage of this and work on slowing down when I speak or, not moving my face so much when I talk or moving my hand. Like, little things you need to work on. I did. And so I was ready when that audition came along. I know I was still a student, but I had already treated it like 2 years of work. And that site that I had was going for 3 years before that as well. So, I was putting in the hours and putting in the work. And my point of all this is not to tell everybody how great I am, but it's to just remind you that you just got to work your ass off, man. You got to work your butt off if you want something. Whatever the career path is you want to do, you got to make sure you're better than everybody else. Especially, I think, if you're colored, sometimes you got to prove that a little bit more. Yeah. Not to the people I work for, because they obviously trust my abilities, but the people that watch me, you know.
I also think it's about, once you decide you want to do something, also making the decision that you're not going to give up until you achieve that goal. I think that's really, really important. Like, I went to theater school too here in Toronto. Incredibly tough program. Expensive. We're lucky that school here is cheaper than in the States, but still expensive. It racks up. And I was also surprised how many hours and how much money people put in, my colleagues put in, and then a few years later, they just quit. They just decided it wasn't for them, which is fair enough.
Look, rejection is hard, right?
Yeah,
especially in your industry. There's not a lot of jobs out there or roles out there.
Intensely competitive.
Yeah.
And intensely competitive industries, I think you have to have that mentality of, I'm going to quit or die trying. And I made that decision very early on because I sacrificed a lot.
Yeah.
And so I made that decision early on. I'm never gonna quit or die trying. Is that, did I mess it up? Like, quit or die trying? Succeed or die trying? Succeed or thank you. Or thank you. I'm gonna succeed or die trying. That's what it is. Not quit or die trying.
Yeah. Amazing. All right.
Great spiel, and I ruined it.
I know it was
No,
great.
you killed it.
One last question as we end this. And something that we typically like to ask guests: what does success look like to you?
Honestly, success to me is letting the younger people know that this is a job that's attainable for them. And I truly mean that. I know that's a trope that people can say and not, haha, makes you look good. I mean that, man. Like, there weren't people looking like me doing this, and it was hard to get advice from people that look like me when this was something I wanted to do. People that reach out, I reach back out to them, and I'll help them as much as I can, and I'll, give them feedback, and I'm proud to do that because it means that they care. It means, one, something I've done has pushed them to want to reach out, and they like something enough to the point where they're like, okay, I want this guy to give me advice. Well, I owe it to you to give you that advice, and if I can help foster a new generation of people that, can look at this as a viable career, that's enough for me, man. I don't need to, cover the biggest games in the world anymore. I don't need to interview the biggest athletes. I've done a lot of that stuff, and it's been wonderful, and I'm proud of that, of course. And we got to spend some time talking about how amazing that stuff was. But really, I'm in the later half of my 30s now, and, my life looks different, right? And I'm happy doing what I do. I'm happy with the people in my life, but I'm happier if something I do can inspire others to do it as well. And that, to me, is success, quite simply.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. And thank you so much
Thanks,
for coming
guys.
on
Yeah,
the show.
it's a pleasure.
This
Yeah.
is super inspiring, and it's incredible to see the work that you're doing
Thank
and
you.
continue to do. So
Thank you, Faisal.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
good luck, man. And we continue to hope to see you on TV for many more years to
Thank
come.
you.
But wherever your life leads you, there's no doubt you're going to succeed
Thank
because
you.
I think you've already overcome some of the biggest obstacles that anyone can overcome. So,
Give me goosebumps.
yeah, no, man.
You killed that spiel. That was great.
Thank you very much. No, it's fantastic
Thanks,
having
guys.
you on.
Yeah.
Great to meet you, man.
Thank you.
thanks.
Thanks for tuning in and listening. Please subscribe, share, and join the journey of Growth Untold. Don't miss a single nugget. Hit that follow button now on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram.